The crumbling ruins of the Appalachian compound stood as a stark monument to the horrors unearthed. The FBI, along with local authorities, worked tirelessly to secure the site, recover any remaining artifacts, and account for the members of the Silent Circle. But the lingering unease, the chilling memory of the Weaver's words echoing in the night, hung heavy in the air. Sarah, Emily, and Thomas were safe, physically, but the trauma they had endured was a deep wound that would take time to heal. Sarah, in particular, felt a profound sense of responsibility. She had pulled them from the clutches of the Circle, but the threat remained. "They will come for you," the Weaver had whispered, and those words haunted her every waking moment. Agent Davies, though physically battered and emotionally drained, couldn't shake the feeling that the operation was far from over. The raid had disrupted the Circle's activities, but it hadn't destroyed them. The network was vast, its tendrils reaching into the darkest corners of society. The FBI's investigation shifted from containment to pursuit. They focused on tracing the origins of the Circle, delving into historical records, searching for any mention of the cult or its twisted ideology. They uncovered a disturbing pattern. The Circle had been operating for centuries, adapting and evolving, leaving a trail of death and destruction in its wake. They discovered that the cult's beliefs were rooted in ancient mythology, a twisted interpretation of ancient texts that spoke of otherworldly beings and the power to control them. The Circle believed that by performing specific rituals and making specific sacrifices, they could open portals to other dimensions and unleash powerful forces upon the world. The audio recordings found in the Johnsons' home became a crucial piece of evidence. The FBI's audio experts worked tirelessly to enhance the recordings, to extract any hidden messages or clues. They discovered that the rhythmic drumbeat, the sound that resonated with the symbols in the hidden room, was not just a sound. It was a frequency, a specific vibration that was believed to weaken the barrier between dimensions. Agent Davies, with his knowledge of ancient lore, recognized the significance of the frequency. He knew that the Circle was not just trying to summon something. They were trying to break down the walls of reality, to unleash chaos upon the world. The investigation took a personal turn for Sarah when she began experiencing strange occurrences. She had vivid nightmares, recurring visions of masked figures and swirling portals. She heard whispers in the walls, faint and distorted, but unmistakably there. She felt like she was being watched, followed by unseen eyes. The sense of unease grew stronger with each passing day. She knew the Weaver's words were not empty threats. They were a promise. Agent Davies, concerned for Sarah's safety, assigned a protective detail to her. But Sarah knew that no amount of protection could shield her from the darkness that was pursuing her. The Circle was not bound by the laws of the physical world. They operated in the shadows, manipulating reality itself. The FBI, using the information gathered from the compound, launched a series of raids on suspected Circle strongholds across the country. They uncovered more hidden rooms, more disturbing artwork, more evidence of the cult's twisted activities. They found more audio recordings, more cryptic messages, more evidence of the cult's centuries-long existence. They discovered that the Circle had infiltrated various levels of society, from local communities to government agencies, their influence spreading like a disease. The investigation took a dramatic turn when they discovered a hidden message within one of the audio recordings. The message, encoded in a complex cipher, revealed the location of the Circle's main stronghold, a place they called the Nexus. The Nexus was described as a place where the veils between dimensions were thin, a place where the Circle could perform their most powerful rituals and unleash their ultimate plan. The message also contained a warning. The Nexus was heavily guarded, protected by powerful forces, and anyone who dared to enter would face certain death. The FBI, knowing the risks, prepared for a final confrontation. They assembled a team of their best agents, experts in combat, technology, and the occult. Agent Davies, with his knowledge of the Circle's ideology, led the team. Sarah, despite the danger, insisted on joining the mission. She had to face her fears, to confront the Weaver, and to put an end to the nightmare. As they approached the Nexus, A sense of foreboding settled over them. The air was thick with an unnatural energy, a feeling of unease that permeated their very being. They entered the compound, their weapons drawn, their senses heightened. The Nexus was a vast, ancient structure, a place where the boundaries of time and space seemed to blur. The architecture was strange and unsettling, with walls that seemed to shift and change, and corridors that led to nowhere. They moved through the darkness, their flashlights cutting through the gloom, revealing disturbing scenes of ritualistic symbols and human remains. They encountered resistance, masked figures who fought with a fanatical zeal, their eyes glowing with an unearthly light. They battled their way through the compound, encountering traps, illusions, and other bizarre phenomena. The closer they got to the center of the Nexus, the stronger the energy became, the more distorted reality became. They reached a central chamber, a vast, cavernous space where the Circle was preparing for their final ritual. In the center of the chamber, they saw the Weaver, his face hidden behind a mask of bone, his body swaying to the rhythm of a hypnotic drumbeat. Around him, masked figures chanted in a strange language, their voices echoing through the chamber, shaking the very foundations of the Nexus. Emily and Thomas, their eyes vacant, their bodies adorned with strange symbols, were standing on a raised platform, their hands bound, their faces pale. The Circle was preparing to open a massive portal, to unleash an unspeakable evil upon the world. Agent Davies, realizing the gravity of the situation, shouted to his team, "Stop them!" A fierce battle ensued. The FBI agents fought with courage and determination, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. The masked figures, empowered by the dark energy of the Nexus, fought with superhuman strength and agility. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah confronted the Weaver. He turned to her, his eyes glowing with an unearthly light, his voice a chilling whisper. "You cannot stop what is coming, Sarah. It is your destiny." He raised his hand, and the drumbeat intensified, the sound echoing through the chamber, shaking the very foundations of the Nexus. A portal began to open, a swirling vortex of darkness, and something began to emerge. Then, a voice echoed through the chamber, a voice that was both familiar and terrifying. "You have failed, Weaver." A figure emerged from the shadows, a figure cloaked in darkness, its face hidden behind a mask of bone. It was another member of the Circle, but there was something different about him, something more powerful, more menacing. The Weaver turned to the figure, his eyes wide with fear. "Master!" The figure raised its hand, and a bolt of dark energy struck the Weaver, sending him flying across the chamber. He lay motionless, his mask shattered, his face revealed. It was Mr. Johnson. The revelation of Mr. Johnson as the powerful figure within the Circle sent a shockwave through the chamber. The FBI agents, Sarah, and even the remaining cult members were stunned. The man who had once been the epitome of suburban normalcy was now revealed as a master manipulator, a conduit for ancient evil. Master! Mr. Johnson, or rather, the entity that inhabited his form, spoke with a chillingly calm voice, its tone resonating with an otherworldly power. "You have failed to maintain the balance. Your weakness has jeopardized our work." The portal, still swirling with dark energy, pulsed erratically. The air crackled with tension. The remaining cult members, their fanatical devotion wavering, looked on in fear and confusion. Agent Davies, his voice strained, shouted, "Johnson, stop this. You're destroying everything." The entity within Mr. Johnson turned its attention to Davies, its eyes glowing with a cold, malevolent light. "Destroying? No, Agent. I am reshaping. I am ushering in a new era, an era of power and control." Sarah, her heart pounding, stepped forward. "You're wrong," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "You're not ushering in a new era. You're just perpetuating the same cycle of pain and suffering." The entity laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chamber. "Pain and suffering are necessary, Sarah. They are the fuel that powers our ascension." It turned its attention back to the portal, its hand outstretched. "Now, witness the dawn of a new age." The The portal pulsed again, and a monstrous form began to emerge, its silhouette a grotesque amalgamation of shadows and tendrils. The air grew thick with a suffocating darkness. Agent Davies, realizing they were running out of time, gave the order. "Take him down." The FBI agents opened fire, their bullets ripping through the chamber. The entity within Mr. Johnson, however, seemed impervious to their attacks. It moved with unnatural speed, deflecting bullets with its bare hands. Sarah, remembering the symbols from the hidden room, noticed a specific pattern etched into the floor of the chamber. She recognized it as a sigil, a symbol of protection, a countermeasure against dark energy. She shouted to Agent Davies, "The sigil! We have to activate the sigil." Davies, understanding the urgency, directed his team to focus their fire on the sigil. The agents, using specialized rounds, managed to activate the sigil, causing it to glow with a blinding light. The entity within Mr. Johnson recoiled, its form flickering and distorting. The portal began to destabilize, the monstrous form within it writhing in agony. The cult members, witnessing the entity's vulnerability, began to panic. Their faith shattered. They turned on each other, their fanatical devotion replaced by fear and desperation. Sarah, seizing the opportunity, rushed towards Emily and Thomas, who were still bound to the platform. She cut their bonds, freeing them from their captivity. The entity within Mr. Johnson, its power waning, turned its attention to Sarah, its eyes burning with rage. "You will pay for this, Sarah. You will all pay." It lunged towards her, its hand outstretched, its fingers crackling with dark energy. But before it could reach her, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Mrs. Johnson, her face pale but determined. She stepped in front of Sarah, shielding her from the entity's attack. "No more," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I won't let you hurt them anymore." She raised her hand, revealing a small silver locket, the same locket Sarah had found in the attic. It glowed with a faint light, a light that seemed to repel the dark energy emanating from the entity. The entity recoiled, its form flickering and distorting. "You dare defy me?" it hissed. Mrs. Johnson, her eyes filled with tears, replied, "I'm not defying you. I'm choosing my family." She pressed the locket against the entity's chest, and a blinding light erupted, engulfing the chamber. The portal collapsed, the monstrous form within it vanishing into nothingness. When the light subsided, the entity within Mr. Johnson was gone. He collapsed to the ground, his body lifeless. The chamber was silent, the air still thick with the residue of dark energy. The FBI agents, Sarah, Emily, and Thomas looked on in stunned silence. Mrs. Johnson, her face etched with exhaustion, looked at Sarah. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved them." Sarah, her eyes filled with tears, replied, "You saved them too." The remaining cult members, their power broken, surrendered to the FBI. The compound, once a bastion of darkness, was now a scene of chaos and surrender. The investigation continued, uncovering the full extent of the Circle's network, their influence reaching into the highest echelons of power. The world watched in horror as the truth was revealed, the dark secrets exposed. The Johnson family, though forever scarred by their experience, began the long process of healing. They moved away from the neighborhood, seeking a fresh start, a chance to rebuild their lives. Sarah, her mission complete, returned to her life, forever changed by the events she had witnessed. She carried the weight of her experiences, the knowledge of the darkness that lurked in the shadows, but she also carried the hope that good could triumph over evil. Years later, Sarah received an anonymous letter. Inside, she found a single white feather. It was a message, a sign that the shadows were still watching, that the fight was never truly over. She looked at the feather, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. She knew that even in the darkest of nights, a single spark of courage could ignite a flame of hope. The white feather was a reminder, a promise, and a warning. The world, it seemed, would always have shadows, and those shadows would always have those who dared to stand against them. and Sarah, she knew, would always be one of them.